Okay, here we are. Let's see. It's Tuesday, and with that, let's bring on Frank Joseph, who is with us once a month. Frank, an extraordinary researcher. We're going to do something a little different this hour. I'm looking forward to it. And if you look in guests, hopefully it's there, but if it's not, I'll have it up in a few minutes. There was a crop circle, a new crop circle, and all of you know about crop circles. They've been around for, 25 years now almost? Or more. Extraordinary story. Frank, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm fine, Jeff.
Yeah. So what's the deal on this new crop circle? Very interesting.
Well, the deal on it is...
there's a book out. Actually, excuse me. There's a book been written and released about it already.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's pretty fast. Well, this might be, I would like to think that it is perhaps among the most significant interviews that I've ever had with you or with anybody, if it turns out to be the way that things suggest. I'm not going to talk about crop circles tonight except for two of them. And most of our listeners, as you say, are already familiar with this phenomena. Just say a couple of things because there are a lot of doubts about it. There is no doubt, however, that a number of these crop circles, and there's been tens of thousands of them over the past, I think they've been known for about 35 or 40 years, since the 70s, early 80s, something like that. There's no doubt that a number of them are fake. They're a fraud. Sure. That are definitely done for whatever reason. They actually fall in three basic categories. There are those pranksters that go out there and they do a bad job of it. You can almost always tell the prankster's work from something that's a little bit different.
That's true.
More beautifully made.
Same sense, yes.
And, well, it's more than a sense, because if you go into somebody's field at nighttime and you just use a board to clomp around and make something, you're going to destroy the crop, and the farmer's not going to be too happy with that. Whereas these other crop circles that we feel are something else, the crop is never destroyed, and that is in itself absolutely amazing. Because I imagine our people have seen, our listeners have seen some of these crop circles, how intricate they are, and the scope, the magnitude of these things are hundreds of feet across. The largest one is almost 1,000 feet across. Right. Made up of literally dozens and dozens of spirals, and all this is made in a farmer's field without him knowing about it at nighttime, without destroying the crop. Well, that indicates something else going on. Some of these crop circles, I've done a little research for this program tonight, especially on this aspect of it. Some of the crop circles are found, most of them are found in the south of England, of course. That's where most of them occur. But many others occur in extremely remote areas of the world where the local population, knows nothing about crop circles, never heard of them. An example of that is a series of crop circles, just the same as you see in the south of England, occurring in these remote areas of Indonesia. No one knows anything about it. They assume it must have been formed by a typhoon or something. There are places in Turkey where the crop circles have appeared in snow. The most remarkable crop circles took place in 1994 in Japan. Overnight in Japan, at least 24 so-called crop circles were formed in rice paddies in water. You cannot go with a board walking around in rice paddies in the middle of the night creating all these intricate designs.
Well, there's not only that, Frank, there's one other aspect to this, and you mentioned this. Farmers in England or wherever, especially the south of England, they know their farmland like the back of their hand. If somebody's out there, if some group of people is out there at night tromping around, destroying crop, and remember the real crop circles, none of the crop is really damaged, it's just laid over. And they have what? Transits? Tripods? How are they going to measure all these things in the dark and no flashlights? It's ridiculous. I mean,
one of the most remarkable crop circles was that one that I mentioned that's almost 1,000 feet across. It appeared overnight in a farmer's field during a storm. I mean, that's so. Well, what are these crop circles? I'm not going to, let's say, go too much on it, but I've studied it for some time, and I conclude with other people that are far more knowledgeable and experienced in this than I am, that a certain percentage, I have no idea what that percentage is. It might be half or more or less, I don't know. But a certain percentage of these are made by some incredible intelligence with a technology we know nothing about whatsoever. Number one, they're definitely the result of some civilization that is not of this earth. Well, then what are they used for?
No question at all about that.
I would say there's no question.
Correct.
I mean, just pure logic, trying to be as rational about it as possible. Sure. The only conclusion that really one can draw on this, if it's done any kind of study or seen enough of these images, is that it must be made by a high culture that is not human. That's beyond anything we know. Well, why are they doing this? Just for kicks? Like art or something? No, I think what they are doing is they have formed a basic language that we are actually in communication with these entities. When I say
pictograms.
They're pictograms that are correct. They're composed of visuals, like pictogram, and high mathematics. This language that's being used is beyond most persons, certainly myself. You have to have be extremely well acquainted with high mathematics and chemistry and biology and so forth. So I think that they have set up a dialogue. These extraterrestrials have set up a dialogue through these pictograms composed of math and visuals, in which information is being shared with the intellectual elite of the earth, because that's what it takes. You have to be a member of the intellectual elite to understand the math involved. But beyond that, which is fascinating, something happened that I really need to mention, and I'm just very grateful that I have an opportunity to discuss this. It's kind of a personal story, but it needs to be discussed.
Good.
And it begins with the coronavirus pandemic that's taking place. And something very peculiar happened earlier this year, on May 29th. On May 29th, two things happened. The coronavirus became the leading killer globally of infectious diseases on Earth. It outraced all the rest of. I guess it began in January as being right at the bottom, pretty much at the bottom. But by May, had raced to the top. The end of May, the coronavirus now, as for infectious diseases, is the most deadly on Earth. On that same day was declared on May 29th, this last spring, a crop circle appeared in a place called Clay Hill. It's spelled C-L-E-Y, Clay Hill, in Wiltshire, in the south of England. Wiltshire is almost a hotbed for these crop circles that are appearing, so it's not unusual in that regard. This crop circle was 110 feet by 120 feet. That's not particularly large. It's kind of average, or a little below average. And what's particularly interesting about this particular crop circle is that it represents the coronavirus, COVID-19.
Look under Frank's name and guest, and you'll be able to click on that text there and see several images of this particular crop formation. Go ahead.
It received virtually no publicity in the United States, but quite a bit of publicity in Britain. And again, it appeared overnight. The farmer in the articles in the Daily Mail, the farmer was interviewed and said it is impossible for anybody to have gone in there because he is aware that these crop circles are being made, and he says, not on my land. He had dogs out there. He had all kinds of electronic devices. None of that picked up anything at all. And this appeared overnight, this 110 by 120-foot representation of the coronavirus that we're all familiar with, this sort of spiky thing. And it was even down to the details of the RNA and the proteins and all that, just remarkable, except for one feature of this Clay Hill crop circle. One of the proteins...
Yeah.
go ahead, yes?
No, that's a weird one. The spike protein. That's one of them. Yeah, go ahead.
It's called the spike protein, and it's distended. It's very unrealistic. The rest of the coronavirus, as portrayed by this crop circle, is very, very accurate. But this one particular protein is distended and enlarged. It's like magnified. So it doesn't make any sense why they would do that until there were some scientists, not just one, that found out something kind of interesting, that this one protein that's featured in the Clay Hill crop circle is in fact magnified, and it's something that's known as the spike 8 epitope. An epitope is the part of an antigen molecule to which an antibody attaches itself. And an antigen is a toxin or some other foreign substance which induces an immune response in the body, especially the production of antibodies. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting about this, Jeff, is that the emphasis that was placed on the SP8 epitope, or this particular protein, by the artist or artists that did this thing, is saying that this is where you need to go to effect a vaccine, to effect some way that will cause the COVID-19 to go into remission. And the reason why we know this is because this area that is being illustrated is known to medical researchers as SP8. It's identifiable as SP8. This SP8, it induces something. I don't want to get too much into the science of it. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. But this protein produces something called CTLs. I'm not going to read what the whole thing is. It's a long scientific name. And a CTL is a type of cell that can kill cells that are infected with a virus. So a CTL will bind to the infected cell and often be able to destroy it before it can release a fresh crop of viruses. So to make this as simple and direct as possible, this crop circle that appeared at the exact same moment, the same day that the coronavirus became the leading global killer on Earth, is telling us that if you go into the coronavirus and you work with what's known as the SP8 protein, that is the place where the antigens are. Where if you go in there, you will be able to find the necessary compounds for wiping it out. Now, it doesn't say how you wipe it out, how you wipe out the coronavirus. It's showing you where you go and how you do it by manipulating this SP8. Well, that was pretty cool. But that is not the end of it by any means. Like you, I follow the crop circles. They're appearing almost on a daily basis around the world, especially in England. But there was one that was a follow-up to this one, and this one appeared just last week. That's what makes this all pretty timely. And a place called Putney Bridge near Beechingstoke. These are small, rather obscure places in Wiltshire, England. It's
spell
20 miles.
Putney, please. Spell it.
Patney Bridge. That's where this other crop circle I'm going to tell you about is located. It may still exist. I don't know. And it's a place, if you want to find on the map, you can go to Wiltshire in the south of England. That's easy to find. And then you can go around and find Beechingstoke. That's a little town. And then near Beechingstoke is Putney Bridge. And right at Putney Bridge, it's not a bridge, that's just the name of the area, you'll find this very unusual crop circle, one that has never been seen before, nothing like it before. And it's almost exactly 20 miles from Clay Hill. They're both in Wiltshire. Now, this one that appeared on August 8th that I'm telling you about, I sent you aerial photograph of it so we can see exactly what it looks like.
I'm going to add 3 to your data piece that's under your name here in a minute.
Okay.
I'll add 3 of the Putney Bridge. Yeah, I got it.
The Putney Bridge crop circle.
Yeah.
Putney Bridge crop circle that appeared August 8th, just 10 days ago. It's 200 feet by 200 feet. When I first saw it, it looked very familiar, but I couldn't place it. Some kind of a geometrical form. So I went on the internet trying to find geometrical forms for it, and I found some that were close. It has 9 sides. It's very simple. It has 9 sides and 10 circles, and they're all connected. So I couldn't figure it out. What is this thing? It looks familiar, but I didn't know. So I contacted a friend of mine in Switzerland, a brilliant fellow, and I said, what does this look like to you? I sent him the Patney Bridge crop circle, a photograph of it, and he said, oh, it looks like a molecule to me. I said, that's what it is. It's a molecule, obviously. So then I went back to the internet. I'm trying to find a molecule that represents that, and I found nothing close to it at all, nothing. So I contacted a chemist as head of the chemistry department at Winona State University. It's not far from where I live in Minnesota. It's a great little university, and they have some pretty competent departments there. So I got in touch with the chief chemist there, chief chemistry professor. Now, I know mainstream science being what it is, I couldn't say, hey, look, this is a crop circle, well, tell me about this. So I just sent him the image without saying that was a crop circle. I've never met this professor before. I'm not going to use his name because he freaked out when he found out what it was. So I just sent it to him. I said, you don't know me or anything, but I'm interested in this. This represents a molecule. Can you tell me what this molecule is? But he didn't tell him it was a crop circle. So he got back to me right away, which is really cool. A lot of these people, they won't talk to you at all. At least won't talk to me. So he came back to me right away.
You would not have heard anything, most likely.
Well, I told him later on, and he freaked. So he comes back right away on the same day, and he says, "Oh, thanks." He says, "Oh, I recognize it right away. It's a hydrocarbon." For those of our listeners not familiar with what hydrocarbons are, very, very simple. A hydrocarbon is a naturally occurring compound consisting entirely and only of hydrogen and carbon. That's all. It's in the universe. It's everywhere. And there's all different kinds, thousands of unknown thousands of kinds. So he gets back to me, and he says it's a mostly unknown hydrocarbon, he said. We do know it, but he referred to it, quote-unquote, as a unique hydrocarbon. I'm interested already. Well, what's it called? He says, well, it's called 2,4-demethyl-3 isopropylpentane. So, well, okay. I said, well, what is it? What is this?
Isopropylpentane.
I'll spell it for you. I'll spell the whole thing out for you.
It sounds like isopropyl alcohol, but isopropylpentane. I get it.
Now, after the break, I'll tell you about it.
This is phenomenal. Now, what we're seeing here appears to be communication. First, identifying the actual virus, pointing out one particular spike protein, and then laying down a molecule, a hydrocarbon molecule that may have, well, let's hang on and hear the rest of the story with Frank in just a minute. This is fascinating. All right, welcome back, and this is very interesting. I've been watching and I guess observing and interviewing with some of the best in the field for 25 plus years, and before that, looking at these strange things. What Frank Joseph has laid out here is inarguably of intelligent design and intent. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, just consider this. Here is a crop circle appearing overnight of a molecule, and the molecule is described to me by this professor of chemistry at the university as a unique hydrocarbon, obscure, not well known. Who's going to fake that? Who's going to even bother about that?
It's not even worth discussing now, of course.
But the thing about this, it's called... I should spell it out because I would like to know that some of our listeners may want to investigate this further and go further with it. It's called 2. The name of it is 2, comma.
That's the
4.
numeral 2. The numeral 2?
Numeral 2, comma, numeral 4, dash dimethyl, DIMETHYL, dash 3.
Dimethyl, dash.
Dimethyl, I guess, yeah. Dash 3, the numeral 3, dash, and I'm going to have to spell this out, ISOPROPLPENTANE. I believe it is
pentane. Isopropyl pentane.
Yeah. It's pronounced isopropyl pentane, this unique hydrocarbon. So he couldn't tell me anything more about it, what it's used for, anything. He says he just barely knows about it, that it exists as a unique hydrocarbon. He then suggested, more than suggested in his email, he sent me a number of different medical and biological websites for me to check up and see what this thing is. He says, get back to me, let me know what it is. I don't know if it does any good. So, this is it, Jeff. This is the kicker. So I get on the website that he told me to go to. It's a very profuse website. It takes a long time for the thing to load up. And I find this 2,4-dimethanol 3-isopropylpentane. You know what it's used for? What it is? To fight viruses.
Wow.
It's used also to help to cure certain, what is it called? Epilepsy. It's worked in epilepsy. So what we are seeing here, is on May 29th, the same day that the coronavirus became the number one killer of infectious diseases, this crop circle appears in Wiltshire, England, showing the coronavirus, showing specifically which of the proteins need to be worked with, spike 8. And then we see just last week, August 8th, we see the molecule for this isopropylpentane, which if turned into a compound, we are being urged to use that as a cure for coronavirus. That's what these crop circles are saying. I'm not saying that they will cure it. I don't know anything about these things, but it doesn't leave much to interpret otherwise, but that's what's being said here. We are being told by some observational intelligence somewhere that's concerned enough about this that if we go ahead and make this unique hydrocarbon, isopropylpentane, and combine it into a compound and use it with the antigens involved in the spike 8 protein of the coronavirus, it will wipe out the coronavirus. If that's true, that not only does it solve this problem, but it also obviates the need for a vaccine. The logistics, the very logistics about making a vaccine to inoculate billions of people on Earth are staggering to the point of impossibility. But if we could make, or if, according to what we're told, if we could make a compound into a pill that you could just make, you just go to the clinic and get a pill that would take care of it. That would solve the problem of vaccine.
We already have a pill that will retard the human herpes virus. Right? It's called Zovirax. That's the brand name of it. Acyclovir. Now we have scientists listening to you right now. Top flight, brilliant scientists right this minute listening to everything you're saying.
Let them just check it out. That's
they
all.
Will. Oh, they
when
will.
I found out about this, when I found out about this, I immediately contacted a number of people. I don't want to say who they are. Some were in government, some were not. Well, one was at Johns Hopkins. I don't mind saying that. And I got no response. I don't care, just so long as somebody checks it out. At least maybe the ETs are wrong. Who knows? Or maybe it is all a hoax. I rather doubt it. But I mean, it's simple because this isopropylpentane is in abundance. It's cheap, so Pfizer's not going to make $1 billion, trillion off of it. And it can be easily manufactured and made available to every human being on Earth. If you can get an aspirin or a vitamin C tablet, you should be able to get this.
This is going to really mess up their plans to inject everybody with an alleged vaccine, which obviously can and could have nano machines embedded in the serum. So
just like Churchill used to say, never let a bad crisis go to waste. And I think that's what's being done. That there are people, it could be that the authorities or somebody already knows all about this, but they're not going to do anything about it.
Oh, they
because
know.
There's no profit in it.
They know before this was released. That's
very
my
possibly.
View.
If you were to come out with this isopropyl pentane, well, where's the profit then? And where's the fear and everything else? You get everybody to wear masks. The whole thing about wearing masks is the most insane thing I've ever lived through in my life. I've lived through a lot of insane things.
That's another issue.
Countries like Sweden don't want to have anything to do with masks because their medical authorities have checked all that out 1,000 times over and found that masks do absolutely no good whatsoever. They're absolutely worthless. But over here, everybody is panicked about it. So maybe, we're just throwing pearls before swine.
They're obedient, Frank. They're obedient. That's what the controllers, wanted with this.
That's what they wanted.
Abject obedience, and they're just about succeeding to the max. Yes,
and they
of course.
Are, and they just are fear merchants. They want people terrorized. So, all this information, as wonderful as it is, may mean nothing at all because the authorities are not going to allow it to proceed.
Scott, one of the scientists listening right now, is on this, and I'll have an answer for you. I'll have data for you very soon. We'll follow this.
But Jeff, even if none of this turns out, it's incredible that there's it really gives you the chills to think that there's some intelligence out there somewhere that's monitoring us and has gone to the trouble of offering this because, like I said, there's no other really rational any other explanation of Doug and Bill or whatever their names are tromping around in the middle of the night trying to make a COVID virus and then trying to make this extremely unique hydrocarbon. That's far more difficult to believe than there's some alien intelligence that's involved here. It's thrilling. It's just really fascinating.
Honestly, and you know more about this than anyone probably listening, this cover-up, the idea that those who control the media and the governments and the planet would continue to perpetuate this asinine cover-up about us being the only life form in the universe is so offensive to an even modestly intelligent mind that I'm surprised anyone pays attention to anything that they do about this cover-up. They have warehouses full of photographs, videotape, film, actual eyewitness recordings, crashed discs, bodies, wreckage. They have had it for 50 or more years, 60, 70 years. It's an old story to those who are in the control booth. Jackie Gleason knew about it.
Oh,
Actually, President Nixon took Jackie to the, which Air Force base was it? I forget, in Florida, and showed him dead bodies.
I do not recall. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway.
That's interesting about Jackie Gleason. I'd heard that story, and I kind of laughed at it for a long time, too. I thought it was ridiculous.
Wife validated it.
Not only did his wife validate it, I got a chance to talk to an investigative reporter about, it must be 13 years ago or so, who knew Jackie Gleason. And Jackie Gleason told this guy, he says that changed his life. And he says it changed his life in a bad way because Gleason said he was frightened. He was very badly frightened seeing these alien bodies and these holding tanks. And he says he's been frightened ever since. He says he never got over the fright of it. It frightened him the rest of his whole life. But it didn't frighten Nixon. Nixon apparently thought it was kind of cool and kind of funny, and Nixon was a weird guy anyway, but when Gleason saw it, and that was what apparently Nixon wanted to do. He wanted to show his friend. He really liked Jackie Gleason and thought, hey, this would be kind of funny, and Jackie Gleason's this great comedian as well, But Jackie Gleason said, he's always been shaken by that. And so
it shook him to his core. Yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, he never got over that. But as far as this coronavirus thing that we're seeing, I just would like to see it get out there and have somebody try it. Just give it a try.
It'll happen. I guarantee you it's going to happen. There are people listening right now who will get right on this and tell me within a day or two if there's any substance to it. And I suggest that there probably is some kind of connectivity. If it's already known in any circumstance to have an effect on a virus, I rest your case for you. This is an intelligent communication.
It says right in the medical record that isopropyl pentane, even this 2,4-dimethyl-3, they specifically mention that is used in the treatment of viruses. It's antiviral. Now, what faker could have figured that out and gone to the trouble of putting that in a 200-foot wide crop circle overnight in some farmer's field? I mean,
of course. No. That doesn't even, just not even worth talking about. But go ahead.
I don't want to give the wrong impression in a way, because when I wrote my book about military encounters with extraterrestrials, when I was writing that, it became pretty clear to me that there are as many, probably a lot more, species and races of intelligent beings out there as there are on the planet Earth. And some of them are beneficent, like the people or the creatures that are doing this crop circle. This is an act of compassion. They're trying to. I mean, this is beautiful, But to think that they're all space brothers, that's a mistake. You can walk through certain towns in the United States, and it's wonderful. People are fine and nice, but if you go on the south side of Chicago, you're going to find a completely different situation. And I think
well, you can go back to the Stone Age in real time travel. That's what you'll do. I'm speaking for myself.
It's not even the Stone Age, because the great things in the Stone Age is like the Hay Age or the Dung Age.
Pre-Stone Age. Here, look under Frank Joseph's name. I've updated this added page. It just says, was there a coronavirus crop circle laid down on May 28th, 2020? That's the date, but it's the 29th, whatever. But click on that, and you will see 3 pictures of the coronavirus crop formation, and then you'll see 3 pictures of this molecule. And I've labeled it. This is an image of a unique hydrocarbon molecule named 2,4-dimethyl-3 isopropyl pentane. Now, the people right now, right this minute, are looking into this already.
I think that is great, and I can't thank you enough, Jeff, because if somehow this is real,
been cobbling this together visually so people could look at it during the interview here. I didn't know.
You've got a lot of folks listening to your show and this show, and if the powers that be are still trying to put the lid on all this, they may have a more difficult time after
this
tonight.
Will not be suppressed. No,
if we get what's so great is so simple. This isopropyl pentane, I mean, it doesn't require a major laboratory like Pfizer or something trying to come up with it. It's a simple hydrocarbon. It's unique. It's different, but that's all it is. It's just hydro. And if we can combine that in a compound and then apply it to that spike 8 protein, that's the end of the coronavirus. And it's as simple as taking a vitamin C tablet.
And many of our listeners, you all know, the vaccine thing is a money-making, money-grubbing, filthy scam, which will be used not just to inject a so-called vaccine into people, but to inject other nano devices into them as well. As many as they want. You can't. So that's what's coming. Now, here, I've been saying this. Why not, like acyclovir, another viral inhibiting compound? I've been asking this from the beginning. Why not? Forget this vaccine thing. So if we've got acyclovir, Zovirax, we've got something we already know that can retard and diminish and send into remission an outbreak of the human herpes virus. It's a virus.
At least test it.
Correct.
Give it a shot.
This is going to be tested. I'll have something for you probably by tomorrow.
That'd be terrific. That'd be fabulous. I would like to think that this is like a people's thing. It's a folkish thing. It's not be the authorities and not the people that are in control. It's just ordinary people.
Stop what's going on. What's going on has been done, as you know, by the book. It's been a plan. It's probably been 50 years in the making. This is the destruction of the way things were, and they're trying to reset everything. I got an email today from Dick Allgaier, who got an email from a friend, also lives in Hawaii. The cost of lumber overnight has almost doubled in Hawaii. Now, this is one of a broad spectrum of goods and services, products and foodstuffs that are going to go through the roof. They're going to be double and triple what they cost now within a matter of weeks. This is the plan. The plan is to break the people down and make them suffer and eventually remove a hell of a lot of them. This is the most humanitarian thing I may have ever seen regarding an overt act of extraterrestrial involvement on this planet.
I've never seen anything like this. It's always been my observation that the relationship between extraterrestrials and humans has been problematical at best, and sometimes pretty bloody and murderous. There have been a few times where there's been some minor compassion shown, perhaps, but nothing like this. This is
an alleged healing or two. You get those stories too. But this is big.
But this is something that's concrete.
This is a gift to the planet. This could turn the planet in a different direction and allow us to begin to recover from this created, concocted catastrophe that has been thrown in our faces.
This catastrophe has really only one purpose, and that is to reduce everything, to destroy everything, to fill people with fear, and then to pose, the authorities will then oppose, reach out their hand. The same people that caused all this will then reach out their hand to present themselves as the great savior, and then everyone will rush to them to be saved. And that will just lock them in their cells forever. That'll be the absolute end of any form of liberty, because people will have been so terrified and so obsessed with security and being saved that will ensure this global tyranny that will emerge. I think that's what's really at work here. They're talking on the news too about Pfizer poised to make over $1 trillion on not even on the vaccine, but the first experimental vaccines, trillions of dollars. I mean, is that the news we need?
No, that's the most inhuman, despicable news I've heard yet. $1 trillion, Pfizer.
Trillion, and this is not the vaccine, Jeff. This is just candidates for the vaccine. Over $1 trillion.
They're just bleeding us to death, is what they're doing.
Well, that's what they're preparing, this global tyranny, this global lockdown. They want everything reduced. And that's what they're doing. That's why this information is great we're getting out, but nothing may come of it. I pray to God something does, if it is real. I mean, I don't know what else to make of it. And like I said, I'm so grateful that you're the only conceivable outlet that I could imagine where I could discuss this with anyone. And I just about fainted when I saw that this isopropylpentane is used to fight viruses.
I bet you did. I would have done the same thing. Well, I can guarantee you this is being looked into, will be looked into, and I'll have some hard answers and information back very soon, and you'll be the first to know about it. I hope I
really would love to know about it.
It's my hope, your hope. I'm speaking for you, I'm sure, that this can be efficacious to at least retard the virus, and that it is extremely simple to produce and distribute. And we'll do it as a free people on this planet, not as members or pieces of a governmental control matrix. Go ahead.
And this also sounds totally safe, because it's just a hydrocarbon. I mean, your whole body is filled with hydrocarbons. The whole universe is made of hydrocarbons.
We're carbon units. Sure.
It's carbon. So a hydrocarbon. Now there are some hydrocarbons that are fatal. They're toxic, but not this. This is they say, matter of fact, the professor told me, he says he didn't even know what this isopropylpentane is used for, he said he doesn't even know if it had any uses. He didn't know about it.
You found that out. That's
I found that out by just going to the same medical source that he directed me to. And I looked it up, and there it was.
Just for fun, what was his response when you told him where it came from, the molecule? What did he say?
Mostly, it's silence at first, and then I could just hear his brain going through some kind of a meltdown situation.
Yeah.
And then he wouldn't believe it, and then he thought that I was a crank or something, and I assured him. I said no, and he said you can't use my name or anything. I said I have no intention of doing that whatsoever, and so. But he did ask me to send him any more information I had on it. I said, I don't know much more to share with you, everything I found out. And then to add to his meltdown, I sent him back the information I got off of the very source that he sent me. I said, hey, you know that molecule that you identified for me? Well, guess what? It's used to fight viruses. I haven't heard from him since.
Oh, no, he's still shaken.
He's probably so shook up about it. I know I was when I saw that. That was... Wow. He didn't know what it was, but he says, because it's kind of a unique hydrocarbon. That's kind of interesting, unique. He says it was something we barely know about, and he didn't know of any
Someone's
uses
been
for
experimenting with it. Someone has done work to show it retards at least certain kinds of viruses. That's already in the literature.
Yeah, they say it's used. Somebody must be doing the work on it, because it didn't say anything more than that. The web page for this hydrocarbon, it mostly describes its structure, and it's very boring. It's very simple, but it goes on and on. All this, it's like taking your chemistry class again, and then you have to scroll all the way to the bottom, and it says uses. They have that on all of the molecules, uses. And the first use was interesting, where it says that's used in the treatment of epilepsy. So I thought, wow, that's kind of strange, epilepsy, you know. And then you go down a little bit further, and it just says chief use, antiviral. So, oh God, that was a moment in time.
Well, all of you listening, I promise you, we will have data for you as soon as I get it. And we'll do that tomorrow. If I get it by tomorrow, let's see who's on tomorrow. Let me also promise you that Frank Joseph, who put this together, this is Frank's discovery. He put 2 and 2 together here. We'll have Frank back on. No, you did a lot, my friend. You may have turned the world around.
Not me. I don't feel that at all. No.
It's okay. I know you don't. I know who you are. I know you're humble. But we'll be on this. We'll follow it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I mean, if there's anything comes of this, you're the one that needs the credit, because you're getting it out there.
No, we'll carry it as far as we need to. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon, Frank. You be well. Okay.
Okay. Be well. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Wow. Okay. Even if it goes nowhere, look at the connectivity between these two crop formations. Phenomenal.